My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Jesus, today in the church we celebrate the feast of Saint Dominic, that great saint and the great preacher of the truth who left everything, left all worldly goods and chose a life of poverty and dedicated himself to preaching the truth, to that great act of charity, which is to correct error and make known your name, draw souls towards you so that they may be consecrated in the truth as you desire, Jesus. I can't think about this feast day. I can't think about St. Dominic without thinking about an experience I recently had while I was visiting some priest friends in another country. I was staying in the cathedral and I went to the final profession of 4 young women who were making their final vows as Dominican sisters. So it's a Dominican congregation. And Jesus, it was so beautiful to see these 4 young ladies give themselves completely to you as your brides, to be brides of Christ. They were just beaming as they prostrated themselves before the altar, as they knelt before the bishop for his blessing, as they placed their hands in the Mother Superior, the prior of the congregation, the mother of the congregation, in her hands to make their vows to you, Jesus. And I was so moved, and I was thinking about what Saint Josemaria said about religious. He said, I love the religious vocation. I love the contemplative vocation. And that's so good, Jesus, in the church, even for us who are not called to be religious. How natural and how good it is to have this love, a deep love and a deep admiration for the religious vocation, for its role in the church and its gift to the church, its gift to us. The religious they're a sign, an eschatological sign. They're a sign of heaven. They make heaven present. They're living already now what our call and destiny is, to be in complete union with Jesus as the bride of Christ, to remind us of that and point towards it by their whole lives. They remind us that we're called to sanctity in our lives and our vocations, longing for heaven, longing for complete union with Him, and being supported also by their prayers and example. And it's true also, Jesus, that the liturgy too, is the sign of heaven. It makes heaven present. So it was particularly moving for me to see these final vows in the context of the liturgy, and how you use that. You use the liturgy. You use the prayer of the church. You gave us the prayer of the church, and you give us religious vocations and charisms to remind us of our home, to give us a longing for heaven, to lift up our eyes to the eternal, so that we don't forget you in the temple, so that we can meet you in our day-to-day lives, because we're looking towards you and longing for you. After the professions, I went to the Mother House, where they had a great celebration for these new brides of Christ. And one of the sisters were telling me a little bit about the history of the congregation, because there's the Dominicans in general, which started in the 13th century, I think, or the 12th, and then there's some smaller congregations that are linked to the Dominicans, and this is a more recent congregation that is Dominican, and started just over 100 years ago, I think. And the sister who was giving us the tour told us the story of the changes around the Second Vatican Council. So the church asked all religious congregations and orders to relook at their rules and their statutes in light of the teachings of the council, and seeing what needed to be changed, what needed to be updated, what needed to be preserved. And the mother of this congregation, desiring to be perfectly obedient to the church, and also, of course, obedient to the charism that her congregation had been given, did just that. So she got the documents of the council and she read them, especially the ones Perfecta Caritatis and the ones pertaining to religious life. And she read them and got her sisters to read them and began to look at their statutes. But she also had a principle in mind. She said, we need to conserve what is essential to our charism and our life. We need to protect that. So we need to also protect those things that protect that. To protect the essential, we need to protect what protects the essential. And so they went through the process slowly and prayerfully of making various changes in accordance with the documents, but they also maintained many, many things like the monastic elements of their life, the silence and the prayer. They maintained their religious habit with the veil, with some small adjustments, and other elements that especially the mother viewed as not essential, but protecting the essential. Now, there were various congregations who, in going through the same process, made much more radical changes and had followed the quote-unquote spirit of the council, what they thought was kind of modernizing or updating, sometimes aside from even reading the documents. And so this mother and this congregation got a bit of a hard time from various people within the church, who felt that their changes weren't radical enough, weren't as drastic enough to bring the church into the modern world. And of course, the mother said, we've tried to do what the church has asked us, and the church has approved our changes, and they continued on the path that they believed the Lord had laid out for them. And the sister told us that it wasn't obvious at the beginning that it was the right choice. There wasn't a great uptick in vocations. It was a very tumultuous time in the church. And for years, even decades, it wasn't clear that this was the right choice. But through prayer and trusting the church and trusting their own discernment and the importance of conserving the charism and the essential and also what protects the essential, they persevered. And then the vocations started coming and continued coming and continued to come. So much so that this convent is bursting at the seams. There's over 300 joyful, beautiful, wonderful sisters, when many other places are really struggling to get any vocations. And now that's not to make any unnecessary comparisons, but it is beautiful to see that the Lord blessed their fidelity to the church and what the church was asking, but their fidelity to their own charism and their own way of life. That this approach of protecting the essential and what protects the essential really helped them to weather that tumultuous time and to weather that storm and to come out stronger on the other side. And so, Jesus, I ask myself now in this prayer time with you, as I look at my own life and my own vocation, that I am called to be a saint in the vocation that you've given me. And if I want to be a saint, there are some essential things to that, like my prayer life and my spiritual life and my sacramental life. Those are essential. And the question I want to bring to you in prayer today, Jesus, is what am I doing to protect those essential things? Jesus, if spending prayer time with you is essential to my spiritual life, what am I doing to protect my prayer life? Maybe waking up and going to pray before I look at my phone is not essential, but that certainly protects my recollection, my attention to you, and so the fruitfulness of my prayer. And even just general routines of prayer, kind of commitments of daily and weekly prayer that maybe is not essential, but helps me to persevere, helps me to be faithful, and protects the essential, which is my spiritual life. That's why we need a plan of our spiritual life, where we commit to those daily doable practices like mental prayer and Holy Mass, the Holy Rosary, whatever it is, that will help maintain my spiritual life, help it to grow over time and bear fruit. And so today, Jesus, I want to recommit, and if I need to reevaluate and reconstruct those routines in my life that help me to commit to you on a daily basis, because I want to protect the essentials of my spiritual life so that in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, I'll, by your grace, remain faithful and please God, see the fruit of fidelity and the function of protecting not just that which is essential, but protecting that which protects the essential. Because that's how much the essential matters. That's how much my relationship with you matters. My life with you. My eternity with you. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this time of prayer. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.